Good morning once again, everybody. Those who are here physically and those who are online. It's really good to get together again on this cold June morning. Yeah. So one thing I know for sure is it's going to be very difficult to fall asleep. You know, firstly because of the cold, and secondly because we've got very good speakers for you today. You know, as per usual, we like to keep it quite relaxed. We like to keep the engagement going, and not too formal. So please, as we engage, make your notes so that we can get to actually just clarify and finish your questions afterwards, and really get the value out of today. So even for those online, please make your notes in the chat. Just make sure that you capture that, and we'll do our best to actually make sure that we follow up and pick up the questions and get clarity for you. So yeah, I see we've got new faces here. So everybody's benefit. Kalina Diolo Bokhengi Daunyani. I'm from a company called OTB Group. On behalf of UNISA, we basically run the mentorship program. With me is my partner in crime, Mr. Maseli, who is here back in the corner there. Who's basically very key in terms of the running and of this particular program. So yeah. Without wasting too much time, I'd like to basically introduce our speakers. But before I actually do that, just for a bit of housekeeping before for the people who are new here. So if you go out, you'll see just up the stairs to the right, the ladies and
greeting, all of you. So it's practically impossible So we then launched about a year ago. But before we launched, we worked on research. So actually, entrepreneurs, I mean, it's very important if we are in business to understand our business, and then for us to understand our business and to understand our customers, we then have to put a lot of time in research. So and then from there we did research, we did trial and tested methods. We failed, we learned, and then we did again, we failed, we learned. You can imagine we spent at least in a week, we are in a golf course minimum twice a week, creating the content. So people, when they play golf, they play for a span of about 5 to 6 hours, 5 hours minimum. And then we take that content, we compress it to 30 minutes so that the content can be washable. So we also research and try to understand the last span that the person is spending to watch the content. I mean, we live in a digital age where the consumption of content has been reduced. So we then reduce it at about 20 to 30 minutes so that it's watchable. So in that sense, we then give it to the players. So obviously we the sector itself is quite big because our focus is only on social golfers. So we don't get into the professional circuit. So the professional circuit, that's where you see the Sunshine Tour or the Super Sport. So we just behind the Super Sport where we also work with on the professional circuit where we work with the PGAs, but we do the championship programs, and then we also do the London programs. Again, or we don't, because for them it's their lifestyle, it's where they relax, it's something that we love. So we manage to understand that niche part of it, and us being able to get an access into that market and be able to produce of more of the products that might not even be relevant to the golfing industry. So I thank you.
Friends, any questions? Any golfers here? Any golfers? Yeah? So I'm just curious as to, people go to golf courses to make connections and to make the networks that we were talking about. To make, yeah. So how do you find, from your experience, I don't know whether I think you said you started with a plane.
Yeah, I've been playing for over 20 years.
So in your experience, to what extent do these actually leverage and actually give a benefit in terms of these different opportunities?
Thank you. So with my experience in golf, like I say, I've spent more than 20 years. So there's what they call the 19th hole. So the 19th hole is when they are done playing and then people are just networking. So, but I need to be honest, in my time in golf and all those years, I actually haven't concluded a deal on a golf course because the people are frustrated, they are trying to get their better game, they are running away from the offices. So if they are running away from the offices, you are trying to get them to get into the office, they will be very upset with you. environment, it wouldn't matter what type of person or who that person is, you are bound to spend at least 5 hours with them. So even if you play with the CEO of a different company that you are targeting, you are bound to spend 5 hours with that person, and if they give you a meeting, for example, in my experience, I don't normally call for the meetings or do the call calling anymore. So I just go into the golf course, get someone and play with them, but it will always be on the target. But I know the first 1 hour, 2 hours, we'll be playing, we'll be struggling, and then after we eat, we target them to say, okay, the minute he hits the good ball and all those things, he's happy. That's when I can say, okay, this is what I do. And then oftentimes we leave it at that. And then on the 19th hole, that's when we ask you, okay, this is what I do, and then this is how I see we can work together going forward. So it does happen, but it doesn't happen inside the golf course or once the guys are playing, but it usually happens once on their 19th hole, they are relaxed, they are drinking their beers and all those things. But also it's because people work with people that they know. So for that 5 hours, there are a lot of things that happens in that. So the golf itself it's a very tasty sport, very technical, very, very difficult. I mean, you can imagine I've played for 20 years. And then, so a lot of professionals that are playing in the circuit, we played together, grew up playing with them. So we are still not winning. We are still not winning, but we've been there. I mean, I've been a amateur for 20 years. I mean, even if you are in an academic space, you can't be non-academic for 20 years. So I've been that amateur for 20 years. I know the ones that have been amateur for more than that time. So because it's really frustrating to them, to all of us who are playing, so it's very not a good time to talk business around it. But what you then do is that probably target someone that you want to play with. I mean, I can tell you if someone is a golf player, and then you ask them, hey, can I please join when you are playing? They will not even ask you for a meeting. They will ask you, when do you want to play? Because they want to run away from their houses. That one I'm sure of. They are running away from their wives, they are going to the golf course, and they spend a lot of time there. But also, that's when the part of networks happens inside the golf course. But please don't do it. Don't say, speak business while you play. Let it flow, let them get frustrated, and after that, they'll be able to do it. Because what they do is that they also analyze your behavior. Because it's frustrating, some people, their temper, they have slow temper, but also golf it's a sport of etiquette. So nobody's actually looking what you are doing, but you want to know when you get inside the hole what you got. So please trust me, if you are playing the match play, they are counting your numbers. So if you lie, they keep quiet, they give you the spot, but at the same time, they really understand that this is a dishonest person. So they might not even want to go further with you. Okay, any question?
Question?
Morning.
Please just look into the camera. Stand up and look into the camera.
Yeah, Tebogo here from the Tswakone Move again. I hear you, Sipo. My question is, you came with a very unusual thing. It's still on white prep. But the question is, as me as I am, Tebogo, normally, how will I identify the investors, number one? Number two, where will I know the right places of golf is where they normally play the grounds which are.
I can say, because same as if you're going to fishing, it's like you're going to fishing. Where will I know that here's the catfishes? Should I have a membership for me to start joining the networking under golf? Or maybe should I just go? Or maybe is it the right places? Maybe we can identify and say, in Victoria or Hatfield or Montague for this and this, or maybe in Soweto or in Gauteng or in Bedfordview, for argument's sake, if maybe we can say, if maybe we are interested, this is the first places which normally, I'll say as an amateur, that's where you start. Then, in investment, normally if I go there, meaning I should prepare myself, because some of us need to sit down and explain my business profile, or should I, or I play, because I think now that's a different game in terms of interacting between me and you. If I'm here, I can just pitch up my idea face to face like that. But in golf, maybe it's something different. Maybe, I think maybe you moved from start and you went to the finish line in terms of how you normally do marketing, in terms of when you play, how do you approach a one-on-one when you're trying to invest? How do you, maybe you can make it as simple as, give us an ETF, say, if you want to sell your product, where do you start? Where do you, if maybe you need to pitch an idea to invest? I don't know if maybe I'm clear.
No, thank you for the question. For the one, the first one, just to confirm with you, golf is predominantly white dominated. So we got into the industry, obviously from our side, from a development point of view, because maybe the market now at that time started thinking that they need the black faces in the conference space. Comparison to TV is that I'm not sure if it's only my behavior, but if I'm watching a TV and it goes on ads, I switch to find what's playing on the other channel. But in this platform, because they have to approve so they will spend that 30 minutes trying to find out where they are and if they are good. And only then after they are approved, we are able to publish the content. So in assurance, in terms of visibility, yes, we'll do. But in terms of the other social media platforms, we use them as a complementary because we're trying to push the traffic back into our platform. Okay.
I think we've got another question here. So it's a hot topic, this one.
Good morning. My name is Mos Matlala. Mine is more of a comment than a question. I think I played with you at Copperleaf, and you sold me your digital platform, but you left through midway. And I must say, what is presented today touches my heart because I've been business I'm on behalf of Vika Business Solution. It's one of our division. I've been in business for more than 10 years, and I've played golf in most of the courses here. And 90% of the business that I've done is from the golf course. And I'm glad that you brought in this part of the business, because most of us as black entrepreneurs, we don't take the sports quite serious in terms of business. And we see it as an expense than a marketing. You know, like you say, 1.3 a week, you know, it's not a lot of money compared to what we pay for Google. And sometimes you don't even get the hits from Google that you wanted for your business. But on the course, you tend to spend time with people that you ordinarily would spend 2 months asking for an appointment. I mean, recently, like I was saying, I played at BMW at Silver Lakes, and I arrived late at the golf course. I was disappointed with myself, and I was hasty, and then they paired me with the chairman of with the president of Busa. And I couldn't believe my eyes when they say that you are playing with Mr. Mohali. We are both late, by the way. And I've been wanting to meet with him for many, many years, and I couldn't get an appointment with him. But I spent 6 hours with him. I even walked him to the car to the extent that to give me the business card to say, let's engage further. So for me, it's more marketing than to enjoy the sport. Well, it's addictive, but I would encourage everyone that are in the business that we are in especially the new business that we are trying to establish, to play more of the golf, invest more money into the sport and buy proper equipment. Also, I think what you mentioned when we were at Copper Leaf, you said how you look at the course is also important because it's got the whole crew. I mean, they run after the golfers. He's quite robust in his approach. I'm not marketing your business. I've seen you. I've bought into the idea. I mean, he introduced the game book. One of the apps we forgot to mention is HNA, and there's an app called Game Book. I got it from him. He said, go to Game Book, put a profile out there. Everybody that plays golf is on Game Book. When you would know, for instance, the CEO of a particular company, you just search his name, you'll know when is the next game, because they put there where you play next. So even if you don't have a slot in that golf course, you just go and sit at the clubhouse, because you know eventually you'll come to the clubhouse. And then you take advantage of that moment. Say, sir, my name is so I wanted to discuss 1, 2, and 3, and 4. They're more relaxed at the golf course. They won't even push you away. They'll give you an attention. So I must say, I'm big up to you, brother. And then I hope we do more of this session with more black companies. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the validation. Yeah. So clearly, you started off by saying you haven't closed the deal, so you got 90% close rate here. So it's actually quite a good, validation. So as well as that game book, it's not only about the golf. It's actually a marketing game book. So please put it to good use. So some gems. I'm also picking up gems here in terms of how to position products and stuff. So as we are talking, because what I was hearing is in terms of your game particularly, so it's not really about going there and winning. It's a platform to network. It's a platform to market. It's a platform to actually target specific. Khomozo, who is basically a lady who's really in the forefront in terms of golf, polo. Polo is, for laymen like me, he's horse riding for cool people, So, yeah. So he'll basically give us a bit of context in terms of what polo and what it takes to run a polo business, and basically her journey as well in terms of the world of polo, So as you can tell, it's basically a very fresh topics, but I mean, it's business nonetheless. It's journeys that these two people have actually traveled, and we get to pick their brains in terms of, from our own perspectives, just to get a few gems in terms of learnings and so on and so forth. So please do take notes, note your questions, post your questions online, and then we'll try as much as possible to do justice in terms of answering all of those. Any questions, any clarifications before we get into it? Okay, so we're still easing into the day. So without further ado, may I call you upon you, Sipho, to take the mic, please, and give us a bit of your story. Thanks.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sipho Makhalema. It is a privilege to be here and to engage with you guys. So I've actually been in the business space for about 7 years now. I spent some time. I'm from a Free State, in the village called Kwakwa. So I've been in business for 7 years. So my journey started after I graduated. I went to the corporate, and then from the corporate, spent about 2-3 years, and I left the corporate to go start a business. Yeah, so my experience is that business is not anything easy. It's actually really hard because in corporate, I used to work 9 to 5. In the business, the hours had to extend. You work 16 hours minimum a day, Monday to Sunday. You don't have weekends. You just start having a real journey. So in those past 7 years, obviously, we are in the IT space, doing the software development projects, but also in the digital media space. So about 3 years, we started a company, not even company, but we started another product line called the Digital Golf TV. So I spent for more than 20 years in the golf circuit, starting playing golf as a junior until I stopped and then went back to play golf again for varsity. And then after the varsity, I then went to the journey of golf by organizing the golf days. So the journey in our, and then 2 years ago, we then started what we call a digital golf TV. So, I mean, if you are in business, you know the customer is always right. And then there is no greater feeling or greater authority than the feeling of a customer. So we see them by using their credit cards if they love your product, and then you then grow from there. And there's no higher authority that can convince a customer anywhere or otherwise. So because our business model is based on business to business, so we then sit down to understand and do a lot of research in understanding how do we then engage and put the network with our customers. So a lot of our customers are probably higher LSM, which are the decision makers or the seniors in different environments. So because I had spent so much time in the golfing space, then I understood that the golfers, it's actually people in a higher LSM. And then I then thought, what is it that I can bring to them and be able to keep my business going and growing. And then we then developed the Digital Golf TV. So the concept around the Digital Golf TV itself is that, so when you play golf, you've got the full field of about 120 players. So and then a lot of people who are playing golf, they are playing golf in a set of networking environment. So it's practically impossible for one to network with 120 people all at the same time. So if I was targeting to engage with SIPO, then if SIPO then finish playing and goes home, then I've missed the opportunity of networking with SIPO. Because obviously there were things that were developed from the legislation around the POPIA Act. Even if I go to the organizer, they won't be able to give me that information of SIPO. So, and then that's when we saw the opportunity. So because we are the entrepreneurs, we are always looking for the window of the opportunity. And then from there, we then, because we are in the media space, like I said, and we also in the IT space, then we then developed the Digital Golf TV to bridge that gap that we saw as an opportunity. So we then launched about a year ago, but before we launched, we worked on research. So to the entrepreneurs, I mean, it's very important if we are in business to understand our business. And then for us to understand our business and to understand our customers, we then have to put a lot of time in research. So, and then from there, we did research, we did trial and tested methods. We failed, we learned, and then we did again, we failed, we learned. You can imagine we spent at least two, in a week, we are in a golf course minimum twice a week, creating the content. So people, when they play golf, they play for a span of about 5 to 6 hours, 5 hours minimum. And then we take that content to compress it to 30 minutes so that the content can be washable. So we also research and try to understand the lifespan that the person is spending to watch the content. I mean, we live in the digital age where the consumption of content lifespan is being reduced. So we then reduce it at about 20 to 30 minutes so that it's watchable. So in that sense, we then give it to the players. So obviously, we have the categories for ourselves to create the content for at least 20 players in a field. And then from there, we do that. So we take that that 4-hour, 5-hour content, we compress it to 20 minutes. We give it back to the players to approve it. So once they approve it, only then we publish the content. So in that journey itself, what we then learned was the sector itself is quite big because our focus is only on social golfers. So we don't get into the professional circuit. So the professional circuit, that's where you'll see the Sunshine Tour or the Super Sport. So we're just behind the Super Sport, where we also work with the, on the professional circuit, where we work with the PGAs, but we do the Limpopo Championship Pro-Ams, and then we also do the London Pro-Ams and the Soweto Cup Pro-Ams. So, and then on the Pro-Am, obviously, it's one professional and 3 different amateurs, and then they play. We take that content as normal, and we do that. So we have managed to grow so fast in terms of creating the content consumption, because what we then identified is that a lot of these guys during COVID, they were actually dying. But when you look at them at their funerals, what the family knows about them is different from what their agents knows about them in the field. So they are happy, they are lovely, they are frustrated in the golf course, they are all these things, but they are living their lifestyle. But at the family house, whether they are leaders or in their corporate, it's whether they are leaders. So the receiving of our product was really positive from our side. So we then grew with them, and all of that. So obviously, when you are in business, you always, because you are an opportunistic, you are always looking for environment of how do we then do the opportunity. So I mean, I often get the question is like, how do you do and why do you do it the way you do it? I'll tell you, for example, we cover that content for free. Someone is asking us, how do you then make money? So our model is very simple and is very straightforward. So we understand that the social golfers, or everyone, then that the market has absorbed us in a positive format. So then we then create the environment for people to watch the content. But then what we do is that we generate our money through advertising. So obviously, for us, with the people who are in the production space, how do we take them out of market is because we offering for free. Trust me, no one will produce the content for free in the field. but for us is to close the environment so that we actually compete with ourselves. In that way, it gives us an opportunity to learn and then to grow and then to fail, and for our customers to assist us to better offer them a positive product. And then from there, us doing that for free, we sell the advertising space. Obviously, for advertisers or for any company that's looking to access this market, we are able to tell them that we've got this market because there's no much of a cost from the market itself. And then we can then create and help you create your brand awareness to these guys. And then from there, what then happens is that because we provide this content and it helps us to create much of a network with our customers so that we are then able to retain them, to offer them other products that we have on the other side. So basically, that's how our environment works. And then, I mean, for in the golfing side, it's a very big market because since through our inception of a product, we have seen more often of the other players who wants to play in the environment with different products coming on board to really partner with us and then also to work with us, because they understand that the LSM of the golfing industry, it's actually a high LSM. And then to give you an example, there's at least 10 golf days that are playing just only in Gauteng in a single day. So it will tell you it's a very big market. So because these people will play golf whether we like it or we don't, because for them it's their lifestyle, it's where they relax, it's something that they love. So we managed to understand that niche part of it, and us being able to get an access into that market and be able to produce of more of the products that might not even be relevant to the golfing industry. So I thank you.
Any golfers here? Any golfers? Yeah? So I'm just curious as to, people go to golf courses to make connections and to make the networks that you were talking about, to make, yeah. So how do you find, from your experience, I don't know whether I think you said you started with the playing and whatnot.
Yeah, I've been playing for more than 20 years.
So in your experience, to what extent do these actually leverage and actually give a benefit in terms of these networking opportunities?
Okay. Thank you. So with my experience in golf, like I say, I've spent more than 20 years. So there's what they call the 19th hole. So the 19th hole is when they are done playing and then people are just networking. So, but I need to be honest, in my time in golf and all those years, I actually haven't concluded a deal on a golf course because the people are frustrated. They are trying to get their better game. They are running away from their offices. So if they are running away from their offices, you are trying to get them to get into their office, they will be very upset with you. But because you then play with them time and often, and then as you play, getting to know each other, because in a golfing environment, it doesn't matter what type of person or who's that person is, you are bound to spend at least 5 hours with them. So even if you play with the CEO of a different company that you are targeting, you are bound to spend 5 hours with that person, and then if they give you the meeting, for example, in my experience, I don't normally call for the meetings or do the call calling anymore. So I just go into the golf course, get someone and play with them, but you'll always be on the target. But I know the first 1 hour, 2 hours, we'll be playing, we'll be struggling, And then after we eat, we target them to say, okay, the minute he hits a good ball and all those things, he's happy. That's when I can say, okay, this is what I do. And then oftentimes we leave it at that. And then on the 19th hole, that's when they ask you, okay, this is what I do. And then this is how I see we can work together going forward. So it does happen, but it doesn't happen inside the golf course or once the guys are playing, but it usually happens once on their 19th hole, they are relaxed, they are drinking their beers and all those things. But also is because people work with people that they know. So for that 5 hours, there are a lot of things that happens in that. So the golf itself, it's a very testing sport, very technical, very, very difficult. I mean, you can imagine, I've played for 20 years. And then, so a lot of professionals that are playing in the circuit, we played together, grew up playing with them. So they are still not winning. We are still not winning, but we've been there. I mean, I've been a amateur for 20 years. I mean, even if you are in the academic space, you can't be non-academic for 20 years. So I've been that amateur for 20 years. I know the ones that have been amateur for more than that time. So because it's really frustrating to them, to all of us who are playing, so it's very not a good time to talk business around that. But what you then do is that probably target someone that you want to play with. I mean, I can tell you if someone is a golf player and then you ask them, hey, can I please join when you are playing? They will not even ask you for a meeting. They will ask you, when do you want to play? Because they want to run away from their houses. That one I'm sure of. They are running away from their wives. They are going to the golf course. And they spend a lot of time there. But also, that's when the part of networks happens inside the golf course. are very reasonable. So you spend about 1.3 a week just to put your ad there, and then we then push your ad. So your 1.3 is about 10 seconds advert that we then loop from different games. And then if you're looking for the one for 30 seconds, it's about 2.5 a week. So, and then I can tell you, it's the price is very very cheap because we are trying to get the products out there. But like I said, our market, about 90% of it, it's a diamond market, so it's mostly black dominated. So. Yeah, so we're looking at about 2.5. We are charging close to actually enable the small businesses to thrive with our market. So yeah, 2.5. You're looking at 1.3 a week or 2.5, depending on how long you need your advert to be there. Yeah, I don't know if you have answered your question. Okay, thank you.
To build on that,
Yeah.
if you loop it
Yeah.
altogether in a week, how much exposure would you say?
We've got a higher exposure. So in our platform itself, we're sitting about 7,000 viewership, but also because we work with the professional golfers themselves. So the professional golfers that we work with, these are the emerging professional golfers. So it means that they also work on the Sunshine Tour. They play on the Sunshine Tour where we don't get involved. But we are behind the branding. So meaning that we are able to leverage on their viewership to pull in their followers into our platform. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I think we've got one more question on this side.
Morning, everyone. Maybe you've answered it, yeah, you did, but I just wanted to elaborate a bit. I'll take a YouTube concept and try and bring it. If it doesn't align, please stop me while I'm still talking, right?
About. Thank you, Khomotso.
and it's basically like soccer. There's goalposts, and you score by hitting the ball through the goals. So that's just to give you some background about polo. So people always ask me, how did you get into polo? What's this? You know, all of that is a niche sport, as you've probably discovered as well. My story started in probably 2014. I was a working person in corporate, probably like some people, like the average South African. Working in corporate, I was in corporate for about maybe 18 years by then. I was 30 something, and I was working for South African breweries at the time, and South African breweries was sponsoring a tournament, or rather was giving beer in a tournament called the BMW Polo Tournament. Probably some of you know it or not. It used to be held at Inanda, and part of my job was to organize, you know, and got exposure through there. And I realized that, flip, you know, when I get there, there is a market there that needs to be captured. There were a lot of white people. There were a few black people. And I thought that polo is actually a platform where you can entertain somebody like golf possibly for the whole day. You're there the whole day from 11 a.m. probably up until 6 p.m. And unlike soccer, where it starts from 3 o'clock to like, I don't know, 5, people buy suits and corporates buy suits, then they entertain. I also felt that polo gave a certain platform where corporates, particularly black corporates, can actually entertain, build network, build relationships for a whole period of time. So it really started there. I started doing this thing part-time while I'm working, maybe like other people, just to test the waters. I bought a little, I wouldn't say a suite, but a little picnic site. Identified some couple of friends of mine who owned businesses and made them pay to buy tickets, and then start really hosting them to watch the actual tournament at Inanda. That's literally how it started. It started very small with 10 people. I think OTB was one of my clients. I can't remember at the time. Yeah? Yes, you were, and then it really started there. Then I saw that, gosh, there's potential of this. As I'm doing this, I started doing it for about 4 years. It was every year for 4 years while I was at breweries, and I took the leap after the 4th year. Now, the whole idea on those 4 years was that I tried to understand what the market was actually like, because it was fairly new. The systems, how it's structured, how do I get in? You know, and how do I not disturb this established white market so they get scared and block me out, effectively. So the whole idea was I'm going to market and target the market that they don't actually even look at. Almost like a Capitec kind of vibe. You know, when Capitec came into the market, they identified a market that the big banks weren't looking at, which is the SMME, you know, township market. So my idea was, you know, if I go and target these people, I won't disturb the status quo and they won't bully me out, etc. So the entry into it was really saying, okay, I'm taking the leap, and I want to own a tournament rather than buy a hospitality package. So owning the tournament means that you now organize the whole tournament, which is quite a feat. The whole tournament means that you have to run an actual tournament, you have to have horses, land, players, stakeholders to manage it, almost like a similar to SAPA. There's an equivalent in polo called SAFA. There's equivalent in polo called SAPA, South African Polo Association, in which you have to have a relationship with to get a slot, just like in soccer. Once you get a slot, you then actually organize the whole thing. You buy and rent horses for the players, identify the players, they send an invitation to the national team, wherever it is, there's ambassadors involved, and once you have there's a cost involved, obviously, in organizing all of that. So to give you a sense, there's probably about 64 horses that you have to run the tournament, a venue to house all of that, the safety issues, etc. That's just the tournament part, and then there's the hospitality part, which then I run, which means I make money through selling corporate tables, corporate tables. I targeted quite top end so that it's a bit expensive. So I look at corporates, people who own businesses. They invite clients of theirs and they sit at the table, and it's a formal setup where you have lunch before you watch the match, etc. So I make money through 3 forms. One is to sell corporate tables. The second way I make money through is through sponsorships. So companies will then sponsor and advertise, etc., at the actual venue. The third part, which I haven't done as yet, is actually sell rights. So I also sell what they call pouring rights. Pouring rights is you go to a breweries or you go to an alcohol company and say, for you to sell your alcohol and be exclusive, there's a certain amount of money that you pay towards me. So I make money through corporate tables, through advertising and rights. So the first rights is pouring, the second rights would be broadcast rights, which is the next level where soccer is probably at, in Formula One and etc. So it didn't always end like this. It started quite very, very rocky, in fact. So when I made the leap, I thought the easy route was just to get a sponsor who would pay for everything and everything would be fine. So I started writing a whole lot of proposals, approached banks. That's where the money probably is, because I understood that's probably where they'll have the money to even entertain top-end clients. And I approached ABSA. And at the time, ABSA was very interested. It's 2014. And we were really on a great negotiation scales. In fact, I didn't always start as Africa Polo Open. I approached South African Polo Association and I asked them, is there a tournament that I can buy? And they said to me, yes, there is, but it's an interprovincial tournament. That's what it's called. And you have to pay for that. You have to pay 500,000 for it. And I said, cool, I'll sign on the dotted line. I have to go look for 500,000 plus more, obviously, to make profit. So I went to ABSA, pitched the deal, and we were in negotiation, and they asked me, they said, we're interested, how much? I said $1 million. So nice, 500 maybe profit, 500K profit. But then the journey didn't end there. So it took as a bank, there's a whole lot of admin and paperwork that needed to be done. I had just started my business, registered my business, CIPC, etc. And as the negotiations were happening, the bank then started asking me for a whole lot of paperwork. Now, the first paperwork they asked me was, are you VAT registered? Actually, what's your VAT number? That's what they asked me. And I didn't have a VAT number. My turnover over the other years, remember I registered this company while I was doing this thing on the side. The turnover most that I had was probably about 40,000. So I didn't register because at the time you needed to have a turnover about $1 million for you to be VAT registered in 2014. So I said, no, just hang on. I'm going to get back to you, effectively. Now remember, this deal was R1 million that they're gonna put on the table. And so as the journey moved on, we're negotiating, we're trying to also actually keep them at bay so that I organize my VAT. I don't wanna present as if I'm not, And then all of a sudden, they said, we've taken too long, you don't have a VAT number, so we have to pull the deal. So the deal was pulled after I had signed a commitment of 500,000. When was it? I think it was February, and the actual tournament was happening in August. So they pulled the deal in February. So at the time, it was like back to the drawing board. So I had 2 chances to go back and say no. I want to cancel the sponsorship deal, the deal that I had with the SAPA, or carry on. I had quit my job, so there's no other way, carry on. So it's almost like at a point where I had to regroup the model that I wanted to approach. So like I said, at the time, I thought I'll approach a sponsor and that's it. Now, it's a regrouping that I had to do to say, okay, I can do this from scratch on my own, literally from beginning. which was the beginning of a bloodbath, I must tell you, financially. So I had to look for 500,000. I took all my savings, wiped it out, borrowed from my partner, wiped it out, approached a couple of friends, family at that time. I was like, hey, you know, and it's probably familiar with similar stories with you. So very difficult to find somebody who will actually come in and say, okay, I'll take a bet on you. But effectively, it was then I said, look, I'm coming to the drawing board and saying, the model has changed. One, I'm going to now not just rely solely on sponsorship. That's when I decided, look, I've been running this thing on the side with clients who were willing to pay, so I'm going to go back to the drawing board and sell corporate tables. So the first year was like, okay, I'm selling corporate tables. I'm starting to approach clients. And I had worked out if I sell 20 tables, I'll make $1 million. Because I was selling them at 50,000 at the time, a table. And sounds great by mouth, but once you start approaching, none of that. So that year, I actually had only sold one table. So made a huge loss, effectively, and hugely in debt. But I think what is important is that I made a call that year I knew I was going to make a loss. But what are the learnings? What are the things that I need to pick up besides money that is to build a brand and to create awareness? So what I did is I actually gave away tickets to individuals or people who own businesses that I knew once they tasted and seen this, next year they will probably buy. And I gave the tickets for free. The head of Nedbank, the head of, all of that. And once they arrived, I then made sure that I caught it on camera and they talk about Africa Polo Open, recorded it. So that it gave me material in order for me next year to then market when I go and tell people this is the Africa Polo Open. They know what it's like and they're seeing faces that are familiar in the industry. So I use effectively the first year as a way of collecting my marketing tools, establishing my brand positioning, where and what kind of clients, etc., that I want to target, and building content around that. So yeah, that was the first year. And I think it was the beginning then of then truly running a business and not just relying on sponsorship. So getting involved in getting my hands dirty in selling, and in getting my administrative stuff really organized, and setting up a certain understanding what's required just paper-wise. So the first thing was obviously the CRPs, the normal stuff, the VAT registration. And then at the time we knew that we wanted to be I started then crafting out the idea of being a continental cup and not an interprovincial. So we started then approaching lawyers to trademark the name Africa Polo Open. Trademarking takes about 3 years to be approved. So we knew that was quite a long way until we can actually call the tournament Africa Polo Open. So that costs money as well, by the way. So the trademark is another thing. So for me, the first learning was, let me get my administrative stuff ready and organized. And also knowing that I'm going to be interacting with either businesses that will require such things, that my paperwork is fine. So that is a huge tick box, and it's a continual journey because it's not a once-off. Every year you gotta do your taxes. Every quarter, there's VAT, there's all of that. So being committed and understanding those is very important, especially if in the long run you want your business to grow and not stay as an SMME. You need to get that stuff organized. And secondly, if you want at some point to sell your business and make a lot of money, you need to get that stuff really organized. Or even if somebody wants to buy your business, that needs to be organized from the word go. So that's my first hiccup challenge, that I came across. So I mean, the brief was to talk about my challenges, so I'm going through the challenges of it, and hopefully, you know, I could share and somebody cannot make the same mistake. The second thing that I know that was a huge challenge is cash flow. So, I mean, cash flow, I knew that you're never ready. You never have enough money to start a business. I can tell you that much. I never had, I mean, even with the 500,000, the following year I still made a loss. And the third year I still made a loss. However, what I did gain is to build a brand so that I'm known continentally. Secondly, was to build my relationship and my stakeholders and establish myself without people being scared, you know. So build relationship with ambassadors, with the government, with SAPA, with the people who own horses, understand what's the lay of the land feeling like, so that Inanda and etc. they don't feel threatened. I'm still just targeting this market, but it's actually, mind you, 90% of the target is 90% black. So I knew that is a viable thing. So those 3 years is to build a brand, establish myself, and understand the ins and outs of the polo industry. You know, yeah, the loopholes. So like I said, so the cash flow issue is, one, I didn't earn a salary. I probably still don't earn a salary. And it's been 9 years. And there isn't enough money to help you bridge for those years, because you kind of like never know where you're gonna hit the inflection point of when you start making a profit. My trick is 2 things. You have to not only look at revenue, look at your cost as well. That's what I've learned. So, because profit is not a matter of just revenue, it's a matter of the revenue minus your costs, and how to start managing your costs. So when I start speaking to other people who've been in business for a long time, even established corporates, they also have cash flow issues. So I'm just letting you know, cash flow is an ongoing thing. Even Discovery has cash flow issues. It's just a matter of how do you start managing and understanding this cash flow issue. In the beginning, no one will lend you money. So how do you make do with the revenue that you start getting? Yeah, and then the second thing was that besides the cost issue, is that now you're gonna start going into credit issues. So credit means that I then started approaching the bank on the 3rd year, because they're now seeing a nice inflow of money, of revenue. And the bank then started lending me a credit facility of X amount. And now I'm learning the art of paying just before. You know, it's extended every month. So, and extending your credit facilities. So there are other little small tricks of my suppliers. Can I pay you after 30 days and not 15 days? You know, you start managing those things to help you ease the cash flow so you can have some bread at the end of the month. You know, so there are certain things obviously that you pay at the end of every month, which is your employees, but there are other things that you can negotiate with your suppliers. I also learned that I created a very good, strong relationship with my suppliers, because they actually bankrolled me sometimes at these events once I've actually built a good relationships. And on the virtue of them saying, look, I'm always gonna be with you. I'm a pipeline of your income anyway for the next 3, 4, whatever years, if you stick around with me. So there are ways of managing the cash flow, but the cash flow issue will always be there. That's really my taking from that. I mean, I was just even shocked that even your bigger corporates, they literally live with credit from the bank to pay their employees. So cash flow issues will always be, to learn how to manage them. Another thing that I've learned on the cash flow is, I might be selling corporate tables, etc., and sometimes I don't have money to pay for certain things, you know. So when I said reduce your cost with using money, what I learned to do is that I would then do trade exchange programs. So I would say, oh, okay, so you can't give me this, I'll give you a ticket in return instead of cash. So learn to trade with what you have for something else, which is a way of reducing your costs, your cash flow burden. So yeah, that's the second challenge that I found, cash flow, which is ongoing. And then the third one is, should I call them structural economic factors without being, so effectively what I learned is that people do business with people that they like. That's just the long and short of it. People do business with the people they like. And in South Africa, they start off with, if you look like me, then it's easier to approach you and be my friend, and then it can then evolve into a business relationship. That's the fact of it. I must have written about, I counted yesterday, I was trying about 123 proposals, and 80% of those were done in my first 3 years. And part of it is when you leave corporate, you're a little bit naive, and you're thinking, things will fall in place, get approaching and approaches, and things will fall into place. But you start learning and understanding the art of business in the world, that it's not as that, it's about relationships and building relationships. I spend a lot of time now on coffees, meeting people, golf courses, a whole lot of places where I can extend my network and reach and just build relationships without expecting anything in return. Because it's weird, because after 3 years, all of a sudden, you've got that person's number and you call them, they actually answer your call because you build a relationship. If there's one big taking out of everything else for me in business, it's really that. My first 3 years, I probably called all the people that it's cold calling, like I said, and zero. The only so far, the people who've actually, I won't say given me business, yes, given me business, are people that I had built a relationship with, and they looked like me. And that's just the facts of South Africa. And I think actually even across the continent and across the world. Don't treat the business as just very cold. It is actually a space where you have to build relationships. So try and do that by all means. And those relationships mustn't just be about where you think you're gonna build a client base. Build it across, because there are in your business stakeholders, who can ease things for you when the time comes. Lawyers, you name them, accountants, etc. Build those relationships, because I can be rest assured 4 or 5 years down the line, you're going to need those when you're building your relationship and as it grows. You're gonna reach out to those people and be nice to them, obviously. Be nice. And what I find is that if you're honest and factual and true to them, it will reciprocate. There are times when I tell them, dude, I can't pay you, I don't have the money. However, I will have the money, I think, this time. And people are understanding. They're like you, they're human. So honesty is really great. Don't go around beating about the bush. I've got it all under control. Not everybody has it under control. Even big corporates, you go to them, you explain to them, I can't, I need the money within, COD. Because my business can't carry this, I can't carry the business for you. So I think have those conversations and have those bold conversations, which are tough, and that will assist you, the relationship part. Yeah. And I talked about economic factors as well. So, and I'm gonna talk about even outside our borders, because the tournament now, reaches Nigeria. We played with Nigeria, Zambia, Kenya. I can't remember that one. Yes. Nigeria, Zambia, Kenya. Yeah, those are the 3 for now. And the dynamics there, they're all different. You know, they're not like South Africa. The dynamics in Nigeria is very, very different to Kenya, to Zambia. And funny, there, it's not necessarily a race issue. I think it's a patriarch issue. And as a woman, I found it quite difficult to even navigate that space. And so I call somebody else who's a male and who's black to help me navigate that space. Don't be afraid to do that. Look, the world is what it is. Racism is there, patriarchy is there. It's that. So you can moan and groan about it or start understanding that that's the game and readjust yourself to say, okay, the target is this and the aim is this, and start, you know, finding a way to navigate it in a way that the world can speak to you. So I could easily just have gone on a tangent on, you know, hey, these people, you know, and all of that. But that's just the card that I got dealt. But similarly, in other instances, they're very welcoming of females in other spaces. So like I said, it's understanding that that's the dynamic, the societal and cultural dynamics that exist in those countries. Some are Muslim countries, etc. So the women take a back seat, really. They don't even understand why you're in polo. In fact, you know, if you saw in polo in Nigeria, the women like sit there and the men sit there. You know, it's quite fascinating. So navigating that kind of world, always try and find a proxy or someone who can help you navigate that space. And you can take a back seat, but control from the back seat, if you understand what I'm saying. So similar in South Africa, there's racism. I'm going to blatantly say that, and I know earlier on I said people do businesses with people that look like them, and it's like that throughout the world. We are no different. It's just that here, the economic monetary power, it's sitting on somewhere else, and so. However, you should look at the advantage that the actual market is black. And it's evolving. From 2014, to give you a sense, from the proposals that I actually made in corporate, etc., I think 95% of them were white people. And right now, when I do those proposals to tell you the evolution and the change that has happened in the market, I think about 80% of them are black. So the world is evolving, and it's full of opportunities. South Africa is a developing market, and in any space that you're in, whether it's golf, whatever it is, it's evolving. And that's the beauty of it for us to capture those markets because it's not developed. Okay, that's the societal. And then the fourth challenge is employees. Knowing when to employ, when to outsource, when not to outsource. Is it contract? Is it not contract? And then there are these labor laws that exist. I've been taken to the CCMA, you know. So I think the first thing that I think you should do is, one, if you decide to employ, I know it's employ someone you like. I know, and then yes, secondly, the one who can do the job. But it's important, because if you're gonna employ someone for the long term, you're gonna be with this person for a while. So this person must exude some level of, I like this person, and they're passionate about whatever the business or whatever it is, the world that you're in. I think that would be the first, and then the second would be about the work, because the work, they will catch on to it, and you can teach them, etc., and they will grow with you. And it's cheaper that way, rather than get a completely, you know, top-notch person who costs a lot of money, but you don't like, and they're not passionate about your business, you know. So that's the first learning. And then the second thing about labor, etc., is learn to start small, start small, because then when you fail small, and the damage is not that huge, rather than starting very big and then you fail and then you fail very big. You know, and when I say fail big, is in big as in money-wise and everything else. So always start small and then grow organically. It seems far, but and it requires a level of patience, a huge amount of patience. And I mean, 8 years down the line, I look back and it feels like a blur. But I got my head down, and only after the 4th year, by the way, the trademark came through of Africa Polo Open, and only then we're able to actually play another national team. Then it was still interprovincial for 3 years, by the way. And only then I could attract big sponsors like Liberty, etc. Only then, after 4 years, because I built the brand, etc. And only after 4 years, I kind of got some bit of money, you know. So I always say, yes, you're in business to make money, but I think you have to have something deeper to keep you going, and a sense of better purpose. What are you solving for? Because I think businesses that last long and that are established, that are long, yes, there is the revenue, but I'm sure they've made huge losses, etc. So, and they don't just bail out when they make a loss. It's because they are embedded from something that they're trying to solve, you know. They're passionate about it, and that keeps you going, guys. I know it sounds taboo, but it keeps you going when you're not making money. To want to get up and still do the work that you do. So find that. I think to just go in and say, I want to make a quick buck. Yes, you'll maybe make a quick buck or not, but it will not sustain the business. So if you're in it for the long haul and the long term, I suggest that you do a little bit of deeper thinking about your business first. Building a brand, what do you stand for? What are you solving for? What does this thing, and even dream, what does this thing look like? I mean, I had a dream that it's going to be a continental, but it took me 4 years to actually get there and have the patience for it. Okay, and then my last challenge is COVID. The business went under when COVID hit, because this is effectively a sports, hospitality, lifestyle business that requires human interaction. Yes, I will make money secondary from broadcast, etc., but the thing has to happen, you know, and people have to be there to watch. So there's been no Africa Polo Open for 2 years or so, and no money. So I think the biggest learning or the challenge is like, okay, when you're in that business, try and diversify your revenue. That's my learning, because all my eggs was in one basket, which is that. And luckily during those 2 years, I had some level of skill that I had, you know, gained through corporate, and I consulted, etc., just to make ends meet. But I think it's important to not put all your eggs in one basket. Yeah, especially if it's one-dimensional. When I say one-dimensional, meaning that it's just polo and that's it, you know. So try and have different models in which you generate income from, so that when one model is affected economically by something, at least maybe others might, you know. And the challenge, it gets a toll on your body, on your mental capacity, and even just your energy levels, and it hits for 2 years, you know. So emotionally, it also hits you for 2 years. So find a way to exercise, because you are the business. It's in your head, etc. Find a way and be jealous and make time to look after yourself. You know, because I've seen horror stories where even just in corporates, people who own business, etc., they don't look after themselves, and boom, it's a heart attack, they're gone. So I really, really had a bigger sense of appreciation of looking after yourself, your body, mentally. And when I say looking after yourself is, yes, there's the exercise, there's the food, there's the yoga, whatever it is you look to unplug. But also start having different conversations, because when you're an entrepreneur, you have the same conversations all the time because you're passionate about your work. So try and have conversations with other people outside of your realm, because then it will keep your mind at ease that everybody's going through this. I'm not the only one. They're going through the same problem. Okay, so this is a normal course. I don't need to be that scared, you know. So it's really important to also feed your mind with positive stories, or balanced stories, let me say, about business and about yourself. Yeah. What else? That's kind of like my big learnings so far, or the challenges that I have gone through in the business. That's where I end. Oh, but it's coming back this year.
Paul is coming back this year. Yeah, no, thank you, Khomotso, for that engaging story, and sharing that detail with us in terms of the learnings that you've been able to amass up to this point. Really, really rich and really, really insightful stuff. So yeah, questions, anyone? Don't tell me you were all sleeping through that. Oh, okay. Okay, second, I've got.
Thank you, Khomotso, for the presentation. Oh, okay. No, thank you, Khomotso, for your presentation. Very insightful. So, as you alluded, that business is actually very, very difficult. So I just want to understand, how do you know when to quit? And how do you quit if you are addicted to your dream?
Yeah, it's a tough one, because so when I left, it's a slightly long one. So when I left corporate, I must admit the first 2 years, because I wasn't making any money, I kept on brushing up my CV every now and again to see if I can get back to corporate, etc. Because I was used to that ringing SMS at the end of every month when money comes in. But I think there's a tipping point that happened, I think after the 3rd year, that I knew that I have established a way of life and a rhythm that suits and that feeds me, versus corporate. It was a much more healthier relationship that I have, and a more sense of purpose that I have found in my business. So by finding a sense of purpose in my business, I can't quit on that every morning, So I don't think, if you ask me now, will I ever go back to corporate or quit? No, I'll never go back to corporate, because I think I've tasted, and maybe addicted, I don't know, what it means to run your own business. It's not just about money. The journey has been so fulfilling that I have found a sense of purpose, that every morning there's something to look forward to. I mean, to give you a sense, I know that the issues that I've always dealt in my life has been about identity, and it has always been about Africans not telling their story and going into spaces that people think that it's not our space. And actually just going in and saying, no, actually we've been horse people all our life. Basotho people have been running horses. Like, what's this polo thing? You think it's yours. And almost like claiming it in our way and telling our story. So once I have kind of like done the work of defining what actually is my purpose, it's easier not to quit every day, because there's a reason to wake up. So I know I won't quit because of that. And it might come in a different shape or form. So I might quit polo. However, I won't quit telling the story. It might transform into something else. I might even go to rowing. Who knows? I don't know. You know, so it might go into a different form, telling the story in a different form. So, yes, I hope I've answered the question. So I know I won't quit because of that. And quitting is not an option because I always try and find a way of, okay, this is the card that's been dealt. I'm not giving up. For me, quitting is like, I'm not giving up. I'm finding a different route. And finding a different route might be, yes, maybe leaving polo and going into rowing or whatever it is. But for me, that won't be quitting because I'm still being true to what it is that I am passionate and intending to do. Yeah.
Thank you, sisters, for a wonderful presentation. I think I developed some interest and I just want to know more about the polo sport. Yeah, in terms of the horses that are playing, are they owned by individuals, or if I have a team of, let's say maybe the team A is playing team B, someone must own all those horses, or individual people are owning certain horses? And are there other opportunities for people to make money through horses, like, you know, horse racing and stuff where people are betting on horses? I just want to know on that.
So the whole, what I call the polo ecosystem, for a polo tournament to happen, there's a whole lot of puzzles that has to happen. One, you have to have land. And that land is about 4 hectares of land minimum. That's the size of the field. It's about 4 football fields. That's kind of how big it is. So one, there's very few landowners who will have that sort of land. If not, it's going to be in the outskirts. So Inanda is the one that has land in the city, but as you go on the outskirts, there are a lot of land and people who've taken farms and converted them into polo fields. I'm just giving the ecosystem. So that's one way to participate. Own land, convert it into a polo field, and people will rent that land. I rent the land because I don't own the land. The second way in which you can then participate in the ecosystem is by owning horses. So generally, polo ponies are ponies that are actually bought from race horses. So horses that are slightly older and didn't make it in horse racing. There's a whole business where people actually buy those horses. And there's also what we call polo trainers, polo pony trainers, which is basically somebody who trains a horse to be a polo pony. So if you think of it, horses that are at the July or horse racing, they hear a gunshot and they just run straight. Whereas the polo ponies, one, they gotta learn how to maneuver, you know, because it's lefts, right turns, stops, etc. They need to be comfortable with that control of the person when they do that. So there are people who are actually doing that work, which is training the horses, and then there are people who actually just buy horses and rents them out. So when I run a tournament, I actually rent those horses from people who own horses. So there are people who own horses. So the 64 horses are actually rented. And we pay them per what they call a chaka. A chaka is, so the polo game is divided into what you call 6-minute intervals. So you play 6 minutes, then the horse rests, 6 minutes, then the horse rests. 6 minutes, then a horse rests. You know, that's called a chaka, that's 6 minutes. So they charge per chaka, per 6 minutes. For the polo, so that's how much we pay. However, and then there is in the ecosystem, then there is people who look after horses every day. you know, so take them out for training, etc. And a lot of people who are in that business really, most of them actually, we get paid for, they live in those stables and they look after the horses, they ride them, etc. So that's one other element of it. In fact, they even train the horses sometimes. They almost act like caddies in a polo. They sit on the sidelines all the time and they actually tell the player, no, use this horse, because they know the horse's personality. Use this horse for this chaka, no, use this horse for this chaka. So they kind of like caddies and they guide also so that's, and then also there's also playing, you know. You can be a polo player and you get paid to play. There's a lot of youngsters as well that have come into play. We're introducing, you start with horse riding for about a year or two, and then from there they start teaching you then how to maneuver and play play. The younger you start, obviously, the better. There are lots of young kids, black kids, that have started now to play and getting the pipeline really in. So the of it. So that's kind of like the ecosystem of very similar to probably any sport, but obviously on the quite cost intensive. I mean, it's not called the sports of kings for nothing. It's very, very costly to run a polo tournament. About 1.2 minimum to run a polo tournament. Million, not 1.2.
I'll come back to you. So you answered Patron. Okay.
I'm Lefa of Makondela Projects. Thank you, Oskhumotso, for your in-depth and very honest presentation. With everything that you said, something that was very consistent and kept coming up was purpose, purpose, purpose. I'd like to understand from your position, would you say that, how do you go about defining or getting that purpose? Is it something that comes organically, saying that I need to provide for my family or I need to make money? Or this is something that's missing that I'd like to see developing within my community or such? How do you go about doing that? Is it something organic or is it something that you must manually come into?
So it's a process. It's still a journey. I don't have certainly all the answers, but what I know is that it's not a shortcut. It's not a, ooh, aha, I got it one day. It's been a process over time. But I think what I know is that it is something, for me, it was something that bothered me. That, you know, something that bothered me, that makes me want to do something about it. That drove me to say, okay, this is what I want to solve. You know, earlier on I talked about I struggled with identity issues and I got irritated every time, or this is a white man's sport, or there's no white man, you know. So it's what bothers you, what irks you, and what do you think can you fix in the world, or that doesn't make you sit well with you. And then you start finding different ways of how to resolve that. It might be through sport, some is art, some is whatever it may be. So the vision is there, but the road will never be the same for everybody. And it's kind of like a winding road of the self-discovery. And reflection is very important. We always undermine that, but I think it's important to stop every year or whatever time you know to reflect about actually, and even ask people that know you very well, when you're in your element, what happens? You know, it might be small things. I know. It started off when I reflect back. I used to love hosting parties. You know, like even small parties. I'll invite every person. At some point, I used to live in Cape Town, and there were no black people, and I'll look for the black people, and I'll say, "Come, let's have a dinner, a braai, whatever, at my house." And somehow, people always loved coming in, and hosting was a thing for me. So it's always felt, oh, okay, so hospitality is my thing. Okay, that's a name that I put to it. But it's right here. Maybe you can't see it, but when you reflect and you ask people that really know you, you might start refining it as you go along the way. And most entrepreneurs or businesses that started off as entrepreneurs, 9 times out of 10, it's that. You know, I mean, even Aiden Go, I mean, at some point even Aiden Go, it started out of a garage and him thinking, you know what, he's obsessed with health, you know, and I know he kind of like hates the concept of insurance, but yet he's in insurance because he feels like there's preventative measures that you can do for you not to get sick. So it's something that's embedded in him. To this day, he still, you know, does the cycling, does whatever it is, because he's driven by that. And so it's embedded in the business. So it starts small. I know we see these people already, they achieved, but in fact, when you look at their stories in the beginning, at inception stage, it is driven by what makes them not sleep at night. Yeah, not necessarily what you enjoy sometimes, but sometimes it's this thing, I need to resolve it. Sometimes it's that. And you wake up, sometimes you wake up in the middle of the night, and then you can't sleep as an entrepreneur trying to solve it.
No, thank you, Sipa again. So you spoke about relationships when you introduce your product or when people were not adopting to your product, and then you suggested that you went through the trade exchange methods. So, but how do you define, because it seems like there's a thin line between exposure and exploitation. In terms of sometimes the client will think that you are actually exposing your product to them, but on the other side from them, it's an element of exploitation because you are trying to get this client, but this client is not really coming on board, but you keep on giving the service. So when do you say it's enough, and how do you determine whether it's exposure or exploitation?
So, thank God, you know, my field has been marketing, so for about 18 years. I'm very clear. I never offer something when in my gut feel or through our conversations, I feel that you won't buy it after tasting it. So, to long and short story, once. So I give it to you once, and that's it. The next year, I don't, because you've tasted it. That's what is called trial. So you try, and if you like it, you go ahead. If you don't, then you don't go ahead, and it's okay. But rest assured, if you're gonna come back and want it again, you have to pay for it. And because you need to start, you've got something to give, and you gotta establish a relationship where people must see your product as something worthy to buy for. Otherwise, it's not a business. Business is an exchange. I give you something in return for something. So you can't keep giving freebies forever. It's once. So that year, I gave freebies the first year, and that was it. The following year, I literally went, I got videos, I remember I had collected the data to now start showing people this is the product. I didn't have a product at the time to show because it's a lifestyle thing. So I did it once, and that's it. After that, I'm marketing the product. This is the product I have to show. So it's quite a very interesting question, because you need to start spreading and understanding with all social media and marketing, how do you market, etc. You gotta understand that which channel are you using for what. You know, so I was clear that one, I need to get awareness. So I'm not expecting people to buy when they see a poster. It's just awareness and establishing my brand. That's it. You know, so people know about it. And I knew that when I do these email email or whatever, yes, campaigns, and when I do these digital on the Instagram, etc., I knew I was not going to get conversion. It's still awareness. You know, it was awareness because I know the kind of product that I was offering is 100K. There's no way somebody will convert 100,000 a table on Instagram, you know. But it was creating a brand positioning to say this is what it looks like, you know. And then I knew that the conversion part was one-on-one and by word of mouth. A lot of my businesses, because it's so niche, it's a one-on-one kind of like conversion and by word of mouth once I've converted. So I spend, like I said, a lot of time meeting people over coffees, at 20 randa, wherever, and having conversations with them to build that point where. So yeah, it's tough, but that's the journey of conversion for a niche, you know, and understanding and knowing who is the right person to speak to in an organization, you know, and understanding the dynamics of each sales cycle is very important. Some cycles are very different in other industries to mine. But I know definitely if I'm gonna go sell, let's say to a Nedbank or a Liberty or whatever, to buy, you know, sponsor or whatever it is, I will have to go in and understand who's the decision maker, who has the budgets, you know, and their financial cycle. When do they actually have budget, you know, and when do I speak to them? Because then I become smarter at selling and converting. So like I said, I'm doing less proposals now. Whereas in the beginning, I did like a whole 180, 120 proposals, but now I've zoned in because I know who my target market is. I've defined who it is. It doesn't matter, you know, I'm very clear at this polo, you don't find Instagrammers, you don't find, you know, that kind of, because I was very clear, I'm targeting corporates to go and entertain clients. So, and it's difficult to say no sometimes because some of them will come and say, please, you know, I'll show you awareness, I'll Instagram boosting, yeah, all of that. But you have to have clarity on who your market is and who pays for your bills. And will the people who pay for your bills be happy if they see a Somizi there or whoever it is, you know? You gotta be very clear. It's tough to say no, but it's important in the long term because it cuts through the clutter and the right people who can afford your product will actually convert. It's, yeah.
He was not looking at my side. Yeah, thank you so much. I want to start by just saying I'm so impressed and so proud that females are making it. Your story is very inspirational and it's really, really motivating, you know, for people that are seated and watching this either through YouTube. I've got a question that will really be beneficial for people that are seated or watching. But I also wanted to just make a comment first before I can pose that question. Your name is Khomozo, and I was just looking at you, and I'm like, wow, this is me. This is me. In a sense that your passion, you know, your audacity to want to do something, and you have that thing in you to say, I want to do this thing there. The stubbornness, if I put it that way, to say you want to do something and you know this thing doesn't really make you to sit well. But again, you've got an element of wanting to see people achieve dreams and you want to see people happy. Hence, you will be inviting people to come and attend your dinners because you are Khomozo. Your responsibility is to make people smile at the end of the day, but also, you know, have it for a long time. So my question is, as an entrepreneur, because you're talking about polo, I know nothing about polo. I'm not really interested in such spaces, but it's something that you are thriving in, and it's something that is really a good space because the competition is minimal since it's a white people thing, and so on, as you indicated. But you're having people seated here that have got their own dreams, for example, to do what they want to do. But in your presentation, there is something that I actually noted that was very remarkable to say, as one of the challenges, sourcing finance, to really make sure that your dream is established, which is what a lot of small businesses and black people, find as a challenge, for them to break even. You spoke about going to the bank to make a presentation wherein you were looking for sponsors and so on. For someone who's seated, who has a brilliant, dream and idea to establish a business, but then the stumbling block is really finance. When they go to the bank or any financial institution, to get that funding, how do they identify, the section that they need to go to in the bank? Who do they speak to? How do you open those doors for you to be heard, actually, to get that appointment to go and pitch your dream or your presentation? I think that is one thing that I think one would say, I want to own a mechanic business, but I need money. Where do they get that ear for them to present their presentation? Thank you so much.
Sure, I'm going to try and answer from my perspective, but also I think I'm getting the gist of your question as well in other industries. So earlier on, I think I learned that the bank is not your friend if you don't have cash flows running through your system. And two, the bank is not your friend if you haven't got anything established as yet. Is an idea. Remember, the bank is also in business. They're in the business of charging interest on lending money, but they gotta know that they're gonna get their money at the end of every month. So I would definitely say that they're not geared for startups. That's just my learning. They're just not geared for startups. I never got funding through the bank when I started. I took all my savings, contrary to most financial advisors, etc., and I bet on myself. And I went to very, very close friends who I think were in business already and who kind of understood my dilemma and asked them for money. It's very difficult, but you have to. And ask them literally and have the conversation, look, this is my idea, da, 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 and ask them for money. So in the beginning, startup phase, it's tough because one, you don't have revenue. So my advice is one, start. Just start. Even if it's very, 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 very small, start. If it's a mechanical thing, you can start at home and make those things. Just start. Because once you start, it starts fueling, and you're gonna find companies, I think businesses don't fail because of lack of money. I don't believe that. There are businesses with huge money and they still fail. So it's a combination of your idea, starting, it's a whole combination of that. So let's not, without sounding, let's not hero-ship money too much to say that if I don't have this, I can't start. You can, but it's not in the way that you think it is, because you have visualized yourself in this factory already having these machines, etc. But to get there, there is a process. It's a hard, long process, and the art of finding how to get there is entrepreneurship. That's the reality of life, So banks are not, so I would discourage you, I hope, to go to banks as a startup, because they're not. And in fact, you're going to get yourself in a lot of debt. They're going to be on your ass every single month to say, pay, pay, pay. And at that time, I told you I didn't make any money for 3 years. And you're just going to get down the rabbit hole. And your whole business now, you're going to focus on paying debts rather than actually running a business, So my get is try and find a way where you find people that will give you a loan on much softer terms. And softer means I'll pay you when I get the money. That's softer terms, not I'll pay you at the end of the month. Try and find someone. And if you don't have someone, this is the network. Pitch your ideas, talk about your ideas. You just never know. To people who look like you and me, because they're more open. They will be more open. And preferably someone who's already in business also, because they have an understanding of it. Somebody in corporate, because they have money at the end of every month, they will tell you, "Hey, ke batla zaga yaka at the end of the month," or after 2 months. They're also living from hand to mouth. So identify who you can borrow money from. Banks are not it. I only got a loan from the bank possibly after the 5th year, and it was a credit facility that I got. And that credit facility, like I was already making that money at the end, but I need it. When credit gets offered, take it. Take it, because you never know when you're gonna need it. Take it from the bank when credit gets offered. Just know how to use it. Pay just before and then take it out again. Pay just before and take the money out again. It's literally like, so long as they're seeing movement of money in your bank account, they see you as, okay, turnover. So start having those administrative work that I said properly from the beginning. Have a bank account separate to you, which is a business. Have all of that, because the bank, when you start looking for money, they're gonna say, okay, I see in the account, your business, there's only this much money going through. So try and get money flowing through your separate bank account and administrative stuff. So yeah, there's no other way, but it is hard. And by the way, it's not hard just for black people. I'm just saying, it's hard for entrepreneurs, general. That's just the journey of it, I mean, I've read enough books to make me feel, I don't know. I read the story of Shoe Dog, I don't know, Nike. It really opened up my eyes because I was like so broke at the time. And I read the book and I couldn't believe that they were living from hand to mouth until they listed, and that's like more than 20 years, Nike. So when I understood that this is the life of an entrepreneur, you start understanding, let me find other ways. And that's why I'm saying trade exchange. It's not only about revenue, It's not only about revenue. Look at your cost, look at your relationship, look what you have that you can trade to help you get to where you are. You have something, So look around that. It's hard, but that's just the reality. Sorry. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of passion there, yeah. I'm just taking one last question, and then we can break for lunch. Yeah.
Morning, everyone. My name is Ketiwe. I'm from Mogalakwena Values. Thanks for the nice presentation. My question is, you mentioned that your business went under during COVID. So I want to know, what strategies did you utilize to attract the brands again? And what is it that you're doing differently post-COVID?
That's a tough one because it's real, it's now. Yeah. So like I said, the plan is to have it this year. And it's been quite a mental block and emotional stressing period, because I assumed that when I come back, to your point, I just pick up where I left off. And it's not like that, because it's not only me who went through COVID, everybody did, even banks, even the sponsors. So the rate at which the money is starting to flow is much slower than I expected, So I decided to kind of like re-look at my model again. So always look at the model of how you generate money. It's okay, you can chop and change it, The art, for me, there's still a polo game that's being played, but the model in which I generate money, I have to now chop and change and say, okay, maybe not this, maybe broadcasting now will kind of work, and streaming, maybe this, let me lean more into this. So always I've re-looked at the model on how do I make money, yeah? And the easiest and biggest way of determining of how do you make money, always ask your question that every day, my mentor always says, ask yourself who pays your bill? How do you make money? If you can answer that in one line, then you know you understand your business. So when I look at it before, I used to rely a lot on sponsorships, which that money, I can tell you, it's unreliable. It's not that it's not there, it's just unreliable, and it comes in drips and drabs, and sometimes it's there, and it's not great to have an unpredictable business. Yeah. The second thing that I made money from, so sponsorships, I actually leave it as a nice to have. So I want this to happen with or without sponsorships. That's my new model. So the second revenue, if you remember, was to sell tables, corporate tables, of which there is quite a nice flow now, because I've established a brand and a strong relationship with those. I have a direct contact with the decision maker. That's another thing. Always try and be as close as possible to the decision maker. Don't try and work through a middleman, because you have not got full control of your sale. So sponsorship, I felt that it was corporate. Oh no, marketing says is this. Oh no, this and this is this. The decision maker is far, and unreliable. Whereas with the corporate table, I can go to OTB, I can go directly to the business owner, because I've built a relationship with them directly. Said, listen, are you taking a table or not? And they'll say, we're in, we're good. So they're slowly recovering. And then, so that's readjusting. So that's heavily weighted on selling corporate tables. And the third part that I'm really starting to explore now is streaming the actual match. So we've discovered that we now have a good presence continentally, which spreads out into Nigeria because of the places we've played polo against, and start streaming this thing and start charging and sell streaming rights. So now it's starting to weigh onto that. So look at how do you generate money, readjust your model. And with time, when the sponsorships come, great. But at least I know I've got the base of covering your costs. So yeah, so I would say post-COVID, reevaluate how you make money. It's not going to be the same. It has to change. People learned, it has to change, and start looking at how much do I have control over the person making the decision to really. So if it's a tender, if it's a whatever, think about it, because you don't have full control, really. You don't. You want to have full control of the decision, well, not full control of the people or the person who's making the decision to make a sale. But it's very scary. I'm not going to lie. I'm very nervous. I'm very nervous. I still, when I do the numbers, I don't know if they'll work out as on paper. So the only way is to do it. Do it scared,
Do it scared. Let's hope the numbers work out even better. Yeah. No, thanks, Khomoso, for that. I think, passion always wins, in terms of, if you're following, your objectives, if you're following your goals, the passion will always help you get there. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of learnings. You said a mouthful. I don't want to go in and try to repeat what you said and ruin it. So I will not even try to sum up what you said. But yeah, we've come to the end of our session today. So yeah, I'd like to just extend, gratitude to our speakers, Sipho and Khomoso. Thank you for availing your time. Thank you for opening up and coming and actually being vulnerable, sharing your stories, and actually being able to willing to take the questions, and being, as forthright and as frank as possible in terms of, the way you handle them. Really, really much appreciated, because I mean that goes a long way to actually imparting some of the learnings and making sure that we walk away from today's session with a bit of a number of nuggets that we can actually think about, try to play them back and see how they relate back to our lives, and see how we can actually learn and actually change things in terms of how we do things, how we approach things, and yeah, hopefully that by the next session, we've learned a little bit, we've applied a little bit, and definitely in the next couple of years, we are in a better space, because, we came here and, we took away something that actually we built on, So thank you very much for that. And thank you very much for you guys for, availing your time as well to come out on this cold, June morning. and to really sit through the session and listen and actually, invest a little bit of time in your own businesses. And the guys that are online, thank you as well for your time to actually, take out the time to, really sit in, because in the end, it's really all about benefiting all of us in here. So it's not just something that UNISA is doing because they felt that, it would be good. It's actually, they want to actually make a difference. And the only way we get mileage out of this thing is to actually, people to actually sit in front of the speakers or behind the speakers and actually listen and actually take away something that at some point later on we can look back and say, you know what, the intervention of UNISA really helped me, take a step up and, pushed me to another level, So yeah, on that note, please, we have lunch in the usual spot. The guys who are here for the first time is basically when you go out to the right, you'll pass the restaurant. The door is on the other, the entrance is on the other side of the restaurant. So yeah, please, afterwards, you're more than welcome to stay here to network and finish your emails and do what you need to do after having lunch. We've got the room for the rest of the day. So yeah. On that note, I would like to say thank you very much, and we hope to see you, more of you, at the next session. Thank you very much.